The mirror in the attic. The house on Willow Lane had always been a mystery to me. It stood at the end of a long winding road, surrounded by towering oaks that seemed to lean in closer with each passing year. The house was large and imposing, with gabled roofs and windows that watched like silent sentinels. When I was a child, my parents warned me never to go near it. They said it was haunted, cursed, or worse, but they never gave details. The house had been abandoned for as long as anyone could remember, and that only fueled the rumors. When I turned 18, my family moved into the old house. My parents had inherited it from a distant relative, and despite the warnings, they decided to take it on as a project. They were determined to restore it to its former glory. But from the moment we moved in, I felt an unease settle over me, like a weight pressing down on my chest. The first few weeks were uneventful. My parents busied themselves with repairs and renovations, while I explored the house, trying to make it feel like home. But the more I wandered its dusty halls and shadowed rooms, the more I sensed that something wasn't right. There were strange noises at night, footsteps in the hallways, whispers behind closed doors. My mother said it was just the house settling, but I wasn't so sure. One evening, while rummaging through the attic, I found an old ornate mirror tucked away in a dusty corner. It was tall and narrow, with a frame carved from dark wood, twisted into the shapes of vines and flowers. The glass was cloudy, tarnished with age, but there was something about it that drew me in. I wiped away the dust and stared into the mirror, half expecting to see someone or something looking back at me. For a moment I thought I saw a shadow flicker across the glass, but when I blinked it was gone. I shook off the feeling and decided to take the mirror down to my room. It was a beautiful piece, after all, and it seemed a shame to leave it hidden away in the attic. That night I had the first of many strange dreams. I was standing in front of the mirror, but instead of my reflection I saw the image of a woman with pale skin, dark hair, and eyes that seemed to bore into my soul. She was dressed in a flowing gown, old-fashioned and tattered at the edges. She raised a hand, and though I couldn't hear her, I knew she was trying to speak to me. I woke up in a cold sweat, the image of the woman still vivid in my mind. Over the next few days, the dreams became more frequent, more intense. Each time the woman in the mirror seemed closer, her face clearer, her expression more desperate. During the day, I started to notice other changes. The mirror, once a simple piece of furniture, now seemed to dominate the room. The shadows in the glass grew darker, deeper, and sometimes I thought I could hear faint whispers coming from it. I tried to tell my parents, but they were too caught up in their renovations to pay much attention. My mother brushed it off as stress, and my father laughed, saying I had an overactive imagination. But I knew what I was seeing, what I was feeling, was real. One night, after another unsettling dream, I decided to cover the mirror with a sheet. I couldn't bear to look at it anymore, but even hidden from sight, I could feel its presence in the room. That night, the dreams took a darker turn. I found myself in a long, dimly lit hallway, the walls lined with mirrors, each reflecting not me, but the woman, her face twisted in agony, her eyes pleading. I could hear her now, a low, mournful wail that echoed through the hall. I woke to find the sheet on the floor, the mirror uncovered. My heart raced as I stared into the glass, half expecting the woman to reach out and drag me in. But the mirror was empty, just a reflection of my terrified self. I knew then that I had to find out who she was, what she wanted. I spent the next few days researching the house's history, digging through old records and newspaper clippings. I discovered that the house had belonged to a family called the Hawthorns, who had lived there in the early 1900s. The last member of the family, a young woman named Eliza, had died under mysterious circumstances. Some said she had gone mad, others whispered that she had been murdered by a jealous lover. But there was no clear record of what had happened to her, only that she had been found dead in the attic, in front of a mirror. The realization hit me like a cold wave. The mirror in my room, the one I had found in the attic, was Eliza's. I knew I had to get rid of it, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. It was as if the mirror had a hold on me, drawing me back to it, making me doubt what I knew was right. That night the dreams reached their peak. I found myself in the attic, standing before the mirror, with Eliza's ghostly form beside me. This time her voice was clear, a whisper that sent chills down my spine. "Help me," she said, her hand reaching for mine. "Free me." I awoke to the sound of glass shattering. The mirror in my room had cracked, a web of fractures spreading across its surface. I didn't know how it had happened, but I felt a strange sense of relief, as if the spell had been broken. But when I looked closer, I saw that the cracks formed a pattern, a shape. It was Eliza's face staring back at me, trapped within the glass. I knew then what I had to do. I took the mirror back to the attic, to the place where I had found it. As I set it down, I heard the whispers again, louder this time, desperate, but I didn't hesitate. I took a hammer and shattered the mirror, the glass flying in all directions. For a moment, the attic was silent, but then the air grew thick, and I felt a presence leave the room as if something had been released. The house was quiet after that. The strange noises stopped, and the oppressive feeling lifted. My parents never noticed the mirror was gone, but I didn't tell them what had happened. I didn't believe them. I knew Eliza was free, and the house had returned to its normal. But sometimes, late at night, I think I hear a faint whisper, like a breeze through the attic. And I wonder if Eliza is still there, watching, waiting for someone else to find her mirror.